We're going to talk about service strategy. I personally think it's probably one of the most powerful strategic weapons a company can use to drive market share, market dominance. It has a high yield investment. It allows you to totally dominate the marketplace. As Jack Welch said in his new book, winning companies are not buildings, machines, or technology. They are people. And that's what we're going to be talking about. I think there's 4 or 5 key things we got to do if we're going to have what I call breakaway service as we talk about this service strategy. Number one, you got to have speed. Speed means how do you get it done in 1 day versus 8 days? How do you get it done in 1 hour versus 8 hours? That's speed. It's not reducing the time by 10%, it's by 90%. Price. Every single service leader is determined to focus on price. Price must be achieved, and that means you have to eliminate waste and eliminate costs. Very important to the customer. And then third is you got to have empowerment. That means every employee in your organization has got to make a fast decision on the spot, and the customer must win with that decision. Trying to get an empowered workforce is a little bit difficult. The fourth is got to have quality. And if you look at the fifth, quality and service, the two words are somewhat interchangeable. You never really know exactly what they are because they're such a moving target. But they mean the product has to work in the service, which is kind of the caring attitude and the speed and a whole lot of other things. So we've kind of moved into the service economy. The only thing lacking is service. When Jeff Bezos from Amazon and Jerry Yang from Yahoo and Steve Case from AOL were asked, what's the source of your competitive advantage? They said, creating a customer experience superior to anything my competitors can create. And the key words there are customer experience. So that's really what you want to achieve if you want to build a service strategy and you want to really separate yourself from the competition. There are 6 key principles that I think every organization must master if it wants to focus on a service strategy. Number one, you got to look at this strategically. I think the principal reason most companies in the world don't understand service, don't really focus on it, is they don't understand the economic impact. They don't know how it can actually build market share and market dominance. Number two is you got to look at all the policies, the procedures you got in place that just irritate customers, send them into orbit. And most organizations have all sorts of dumb policies, dumb rules, and dumb procedures. Third thing you want to do is make sure you're hiring the right people. And then you got to learn to love them. And most organizations, if the body's warm, they hire him. If the guy's got a pulse, he's on board. You've got to be very, very careful. Hire 1 out of 50. Maybe 1 out of 100, but not 1 out of 1 or 1 out of 2. And then the fourth thing is you got to have empowerment. And empowerment means that your employee has to be empowered to make a decision on the spot to take care of a customer to the customer's satisfaction. You will never be a service leader unless you have absolute empowerment. And then the fifth thing is you got to train and educate the whole workforce. So if you got 50 people, you got to train and educate 50. If you got 500, 5,000, 50,000, every single person has to be trained on the art of service. If you're without constantly training and developing people, frankly, you don't have a chance. And then you need, most importantly, to measure what you're doing. So if 6 months later, 2 years later, you don't say, well, people feel real good about this. What we're looking for is how did it build market share? Tell me how it impacted profits, how it impacted market share. And you got to measure the hard numbers. Those are the 6 key things I think we got to do. So to create a service culture, I think there's a few things we want to focus on. One is you got to have the vision as a service leader, not as a banker, not as manufacturing, not as an airline, but you got to have a vision as a service leader. Number 2, you got to use technology to drive your business. 3 is you got to effectively develop and build employees. You got to increase the value of employees, and then you got to train and educate all employees without any exception. And then you got to create a customer service friendly process and procedures so you could have loving, caring people. But you could have some policies and procedures that are crazy that send people into orbit. And then 6, you got to have the customers, I truly believe, value exceptional service. And I can document financially how it moves right to the bottom line. We need to keep in mind that price by itself is not sustainable. You have to value employees and you got to value customers. And then we have to track results through sales and profits. And I believe if you really wrap your arms around a service strategy, it will dramatically improve sales, profits, and market share. And that's really what we're after. If you really look at all the research, why customers defect, 40% is because of service, only 8% because of cost, only 8% because of quality. I think there was some really interesting research from Toyota, and it showed that if you are happy with sales and service, 93% of us will buy another car from Toyota. But more interesting, if we're unhappy, only 3% will buy another car from Toyota. If we take a look at what we're trying to accomplish, are your employees trained on policies and procedures or on principles? The ideal thing is you want to teach them the principles of service. If you look at a Southwest Airlines, they've never had a strike, largest carrier of domestic passengers, made money for 32 straight years. This last year, in 2004, they made $442 million. In 2004, their revenue was $6.53 billion, roughly 71 million passengers. The average fare is only $88.57. And I think one of the most meaningful messages from Colleen Barrett, their president, who said, we are not airline with great customer service. We are a great customer service organization that happens to be in the airline business. I would challenge you to take that quote and put your own company in there so that we move our mind away from thinking that we're in the manufacturing business or hospital business or whatever that industry is, to realize that we are truly in the service business. If you look economically at the impact, Southwest Airlines market capitalization is roughly $11 billion. It's 166% more than the other major U.S. airlines combined. Herb Kaler, their chairman, said you have to treat your employees like your customers. When you treat them right, then you will treat your outside customers right. The principles are so solid. And if you look at, we talk about service strategy with Southwest, is they understand they're in the customer service business, not an airline. They use technology to increase speed and reduce costs. They value employees. They use price to drive business, but it's built around service. And it's a great place to work. Because of that, they're able to attract high-performing employees. Recognition, not money, is what drives Southwest Airlines. They use speed to reduce costs and drive service. And the marketplace, very importantly, values economically a service leader. And then I think Southwest Airlines uses its assets more effectively than anybody else. And if we look at another quick role model in terms of understanding the service strategy, if you look at the numbers for Walmart and Kmart this last year, sales ending January 31, 2005 at Walmart was $288 billion. At Kmart was $19.8 billion. Sales increase at Walmart was 12.5% versus a minus 15.4% at Kmart. Profits were 10.3%. or $10.3 billion at Walmart versus $907 million at Kmart. Three things that Walmart does different. They value employees, they value customers, and they're frugal, 10 times more frugal than Kmart will ever hope to be. Sam Walton said, give them a superb service at the lowest price possible and guarantee every sale. They got 1.6 million employees, 53,000 stores. Internationally, sales are $47.5 billion. They have 330,000 employees, or what they would call it, associates outside the U.S. Lee Scott, their president, said we must provide the level of service our customers expect. See, at Walmart, to err was human. To attempt to hide the error was a sin, and to do nothing was a mortal sin. Sam Walton's willingness to challenge the rules enabled him to make breakthroughs in technology. And he said, if it ain't broke, break it. And as Sam Walton, when he was alive, said the way management treats the associates is exactly how the associates will then treat the customer. Now, if you look at the principles of Walmart versus Kmart, they value customers, they love employees, they're frugal, they use technology, they're open to new ideas. See, I think if you're going to be a service leader, the only way to compete is you got to employ high-performance employees. You know, if we look at the summary of what we talked about, Stanley Marcus, the chairman emeritus of Neiman Marcus, the founder, I think, of service and selling in the United States, said we have to respect our customers. Second, you have to learn to love them. And eventually, you will adore them.